After Beppy, I gave my audience a choice of which boss to fight next, and then proceeded to not listen to them. I mean, you saw what happened last time I did that, right? So Baroness Von Bon Bon, it is.
It's on!
Her fight is unique in that her first 3 phases pull from 5 possible mini-bosses, with the third one being the most difficult since the Baroness shoots at you while you still have to deal with the mini-boss. I would always reset to fight the Waffle or Gumball machine first, since they're the hardest mini-bosses, which confused a lot of people. My reasoning for this is that if I fought either of them in phase 3, they would be almost impossible to consistently dodge in conjunction with the Baroness's attack. And while I think the Gumball machine is the hardest phase 3 mini-boss, it isn't very time efficient to reset for a 20% chance when the Waffle is almost as difficult. Let's go over each mini-boss individually, starting with Sargent Gumbo Gumbull. He runs back and forth across the screen and only has one attack, but it's a tough one. He shoots gumballs into the air for them to fall down in various patterns. Jelly bullies are constantly being summoned, and since this is expert mode, they start spawning on the first mini-boss, so we'll have to worry about them constantly. These little guys run out of the castle to the left until off screen. Without being able to duck and shoot them, they can put us in undodgeable situations, but most of the time, if you're paying attention, can be dodged or parried off of while avoiding the mini-boss. Since Sargent Gumbo Gumball's attacks fall down from the top of the screen, it's tough to hit him while it's happening, but there are some openings I can take advantage of to speed this phase up. Between attacks, I can get about 3 to 5 hits on average, but they aren't exactly easy to land either, since the green candy platform can get in the way here. It's a bit awkward, but I can drop down it to land an attack. Sir Waffington III is the second hardest mini-boss in my opinion, and I just realized it's a little bit funny that the third is the second. No, cut that out. This is mostly due to his movement pattern being a very fast and very poorly drawn circle that will change to follow the player. This makes it so he can ram into us if we're not careful. But what makes this worse is that we don't know exactly when he'll use his attack, which can trap us. This has him randomly shoot his pieces in the 4 cardinal directions or diagonally. Whichever one he didn't start with, he'll do second before returning to his normal movement pattern. You usually want to find the sweet spot between the 2 possible attacks to safely dodge both, but since we don't know exactly when, where, and which attack he'll start with, you'll constantly be adjusting, sometimes performing some tight dodges between the 2 attacks. You can't actually damage him while he's attacking, so just focus on dodging. But if you need to, you can still parry the pieces of Sir Waffington III. This can be useful when jelly bullies get in the way. These minions are most dangerous when we have to dodge the attack in a way that we're forced to hide right next to the castle, which sometimes happens against this specific mini-boss. Muffsky Chernikov was tough to figure out at first, but not so bad when I got used to him. His only attack is to jump around the screen, hitting the sides and top of it to land back on the ground, and splash frosting 3 times from both sides of him. There's a small opening where you can jump between the mini-boss and frosting, but I don't recommend going out of your way to land there. Instead, use the green candy platform as our go-to safe spot. When Muffsky Chernikov lands below or near it, drop down and immediately land back on it to avoid the frosting. Then move, or don't move, in whatever way you need to so as to avoid the next jump from the boss. I almost always go for my own attacks in situations like this, which often requires a bit of waiting for the jumps and platform to be in the right spot. Kernel Von Pop is the second easiest mini-boss for me. He moves in a predictable pattern across the screen, with the only thing you need to pay attention to is if he moves up or down when he's in the middle of the screen. If not, be prepared to jump over him and get a whetstone hit on your way. His only attack is to summon his minions who fly upwards until they leave the screen. This is typically harmless, but if Kernel Von Pop is feeling extra mean, he'll summon one right where you're going for you to take damage to. I recommend waiting to hit this boss until you know you're safe to hold left or right and land safely after hitting him. I generally stay on the left so I have more time to react to the jelly bullies. Lord Gob Packer is the easiest mini-boss in my opinion. All he does is follow the player while ignoring gravity, which is only made slightly more complicated due to the 2 minions that trail behind him. These can be jumped between, and I like to run around in a circle while parrying off of Lord Gob Packer when possible. The moving platform gives us an easy safe spot to land and baits the boss upwards. The most common time I would get hit by it is when a jelly bully gets in the way, or if this is a phase 3 mini-boss. Any mini-boss, being the third one, has them become much more difficult than they would be otherwise. For most of them, you can bait Baroness's attack upwards by jumping off the candy platform, so you have enough space to dodge both it and the mini-boss. And even though I would reset to fight one of the 2 hardest mini-bosses first to lower my odds of running into them last, Baroness just loved to summon them then. Of course, it's my mortal enemy. A Gumball machine. Sergeant Gumbo Gumbull and Sir Waffington III are exceptions to my normal strategy since their movement patterns and attacks can corner you right into the Baroness's attack. So I try to always keep in mind when she's about to shoot and play around it as best as I can. Ideally, being able to bait it to the top of the screen like usual. The attack can also be parried off of since the clouds have health, which can help too. That just leaves phase 4, where Baroness Von Bon Bon yanks on the castle to make it chase the player. Her main attack is to throw her head, which will periodically home onto you. It does this 6 times after the initial throw, which is important to know as I actually keep track of how many times it's done so, to know when it's going to leave the screen, since right after it homes in on the last time, it briefly stops before continuing in that direction until it's gone. This wouldn't be so bad on its own if not for her being able to use this attack again while one head is already chasing you. This can make it hard to keep count, but as long as you know how many times the first head has homed in onto you, you can use that knowledge to know that the second head will home into you that many more times before going off screen itself. Too bad that's not the only thing we have to worry about though, since the castle spits out Patsy Menthols pretty often on expert. These can be parried to give us some more movement options, but more often get in the way of me dodging the heads, and can make me lose count. Uh-oh, we also have to hit the boss, oh snap! We can get about 6 to 8 hits on her safely while the phase transition is happening. If we wanted to play more greedily, I would go for an extra 2 after the castle starts moving, but she can throw her head right after that starts if she wants to, so I don't recommend it. Most of our 34 hits will come from slight openings in her attacks. If a Patsy Menthol is about to roll out, which has to tell of the mouth opening beforehand, I can't attack, but if that's not the case and the heads are also not in the way, preferably after she just threw one so she can't do it again, I can get a parry or 2 on the boss before I run left again to focus on dodging. So a majority of this phase is spent dodging the heads. Baiting them to the left is a good way to open up my dodging options, and the candy platform helps a ton too. This attack makes this the hardest phase of this fight, but after getting used to counting and dodging, this happened. Yes! Oh my god! 2 health? I think that's the first 2 health victory! Oh my god! I almost don't believe it's actually over because of that. I was like, it can't be over, I have 2 health. Okay, but I also didn't pick a victory quote. Everyone say a victory quote right now if you want me to say it. All I got is, First they're sweet, and then they're dead. Off with your head, and now you're dead. That's candy. I have nothing. I've got nothing. There's so many good ones that you guys said. You're sweet, now you're beat. There, perfect. So I'll edit that into the video. Thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying these single boss videos as I continuously stall fighting Grim again. If you are, consider subscribing so you don't miss the rest.